The moon cast a silvery glow over the quiet city, its light filtering through the large glass windows of Christie's place. She moved with effortless grace, her platinum hair cascading down her back as she poured herself a glass of wine. The night was still, but her senses were always alert. Years of living in the underworld taught her to never let her guard down. A shift in the air, a barely perceptible disturbance. Christie's grip on her glass tightened, her muscles coiling with tension. She wasn't alone. Slowly, she set the glass down, her crimson lips curving into a knowing smirk. "You always did have a bad habit of sneaking in, Bayman." From the shadows, a low chuckle resonated deep, familiar. Then he stepped forward, his imposing frame outlined against the moonlight. Dressed in tactical gear, he was every bit the specter of death she remembered. "Still as sharp as ever," Bayman murmured, his voice edged with something unreadable. Christie put her hand on her hip, feigning nonchalance as her pulse quickened. "If you came to kill me, you would have done it already." Bayman's gaze roamed over her, assessing, calculating. "I came to see if you're still the best." She arched an eyebrow. "And breaking into my home was your way of testing me? Would you have let me in otherwise?" he countered. Christie chuckled, a slow, sultry sound. "You always liked playing games." In a blur of movement she struck, a swift, precise kick aimed at his ribs. Bayman dodged, catching her leg and twisting her balance. But Christie was faster, fluid, she countered, twisting free. Her body a deadly weapon. Their exchange was brutal, efficient, yet beneath the strikes and blocks, something else simmered. A challenge, a familiarity neither could ignore. Bayman finally seized control, twisting her arm behind her back and pressing her against his rigid body armor. His breath was warm against her ear. "Still predictable," he whispered. Christie laughed, unbothered by her position. "And yet, here you are." For a moment, they remained still, his grip firm, her body taut against his. The heat between them was undeniable. Their shared history, a volatile mix of tension and understanding. With practiced ease, Christie shifted her weight, slipping free from his hold. She spun to face him, their noses almost touching, her lips parting slightly. "So, tell me, Bayman, did you miss me?" His gaze darkened, but his smirk remained. "Maybe." The air between them crackled. But then he stepped back, the tension breaking just before it could snap completely. "You should be careful," he said, his tone lower. "There are people watching you. Dangerous ones." Christie tilted her head, watching him retreat into the shadows. "I can handle myself." Bayman gave a small, knowing nod. "I know, but I wanted to see for myself." And then he was gone, leaving behind nothing but the lingering scent of steel. And something distinctly his. Christie exhaled, her fingers brushing over the spot where his hands had held her. She should have felt anger, suspicion. Instead, all she felt was the echo of his presence and the promise of a game not yet finished.